All right, everybody, we're so excited today because we have one of our friends on that's an absolute inspiration and just driven woman that we absolutely love. Her name's Madison.
We fell in love with Madison. Oh, just being two nervous girls going for our first photo shoot, and Madison did our makeup. I won't ever forget. Like, we kind of got lost even trying to find you, but that was such an experience that day.
Yeah, and we actually figured out that we went to Belmont together, and it was like after we had graduated, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we had become Facebook friends while we were at Belmont together, and we probably had like one class together. That's why we were Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And, I think y'all saw that I was advertising for the photographer that I was working with for that shoot. And I was like, oh yeah, I think when she was telling me who I was coming that day, I said, oh, I think I know them. So yeah, and I know that's crazy. I think that was in 2015.
Yeah.
So now it's 2020. Wow. So yeah, so it's been 5 years.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's been fun. You've done our makeup ever since.
Yeah.
I know. And y'all, I appreciate y'all so much because that was really that was right after I quit my job and started doing makeup full time. So I feel like I've grown a lot since then as well. So we've kind of grown together.
We have.
Yeah.
So since, you mentioned in 2015, like you had just launched, and we were just so impressed then because you had your own makeup line, and, we still use one of those car pictures from that first shoot, and people are just like, you look so good. There's just something a little different. And we're like, oh, that's because Madison did our makeup.
Yeah, that was like a little more glam.
Yeah. We had those fake eyelashes on and everything.
Yeah, feeling confident.
Yeah.
So when was it clear that you wanted to start your business?
It wasn't clear until I got married to my husband in 2014. And my husband owns a recording studio here in Nashville. And I, at the time, was working for CMT. Technically, I was working for Viacom Media Networks, but I was in the CMT office downtown Nashville. And I was getting up every day and leaving the house, like 8:45, having to go to work. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the gym, and just like every day was different for him. And even if he did have a session that day, he didn't have to work till 10 or whatever. So anyway, I kind of got jealous, right? So I've always been really entrepreneurial, and I always knew that I wanted to own a business, but I didn't know in what field that would be. And it was around the time where I was starting to kind of have some little minor issues at work, corporate bureaucracy and all that. And I was expressing to him some of the issues that I was having at work. And he was like, I just really feel like you would do great owning your own business. Let's brainstorm and think about some things that you could do. So, we talked about everything. Like, we had just designed our full print suite for our wedding. So we had talked, because he's a graphic designer as well. We had talked about that. We had talked about, branding, just kind of more general things. And about the time that we were really starting to kind of delve into those conversations and figure out something for me, I was invited by a pageant coach that I had worked with that's based here in Nashville. She had actually helped me when I was preparing for the Miss Tennessee pageant in 2013, which I competed in. She invited me to go with a team that she had put together of hair and makeup stylists to go to Virginia Beach for a big national pageant to do hair and makeup styling for contestants. And she knew that I had experience doing my own hair and makeup and some light experience, not anything overly professional, but some light experience with hair and makeup. And she knew that I was, used to the pageant world and that wouldn't freak me out. Yeah. So I took a week of vacation off of work and I was like, yeah, I'll do this. So I went and I absolutely loved it. I think my kit was probably worth like $200. It's worth over like $10,000 now.
Wow.
At the time, bless my heart. I had no idea. But I went and I really loved it. And I got back from that trip and I told my husband, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that was in July of 2014. And that August, I actually did my first bride professionally.
Oh, wow.
She was recommended to me by my hairdresser,
Mhm.
who was doing my cut and color at the time. And my hairdresser was actually doing the bride's hair for the wedding. And she was, having a conversation with her and asked her if she knew any makeup artists. And she so graciously recommended me, knowing that I didn't really have any serious experience,
Right.
but thank God for that bride. I mean, I'll never forget her. She was totally down, and she hired me, and I went over to her house and did her trial. And I mean, it's just like, so, but I did 2 weddings. So I did that one in August, and then I did another one in September. I started advertising on Facebook with the very small portfolio that I had.
Yeah.
But funny enough, the girls that I did book that year that were brides had pageant backgrounds. So because those were the photos that I had to show, were of my pageant clients, that's who I attracted. And I mean, to this day, I still love doing like more of the glamorous looks for my brides. But yeah, so that really lit a fire, and I knew that was something that I could just, take it and run with it. So I made the decision that fall to really work hard and save my money from my full-time job. And I told my manager in November of 2014 that in January I was going to leave to be a full-time makeup artist. And I think he was like, really? I didn't even know that you did that. Like, can you do that? And my mom, I'll never forget when I told her that fall, and she said, okay, well, just remember you have $100,000 education. Kaylee, I mean, I can't remember what your degree was in, but mine was in music business. So total, like a huge pivot from that, which, obviously, like I was at that time was following the path of, working in the entertainment industry. And so that, it was just kind of a shock to everyone. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And, that kind of led me to quitting. I think my last day was January 9th of 2015.
Oh, wow. So it's so cool because, like, I think a lot of people will think like, oh, I'd like to do this, but they don't I mean, you said I want to do this in July. You had your first client in August, and then you had a plan in November, and then January was it. Like, I just feel like that's so helpful for people because it can be scary. And that was kind of how we got started too. It was like, we did it on the side, and then 9 months later we were like, okay, like we're done. Like done with their traditional stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, when you set your mind to it, and to me, it was just so clear. I've always kind of followed my gut on a lot of my major life decisions. And it was so clear to me that this was something that I needed to do. And I will say, at the time, actually one of the makeup artists that I met on that pageant trip, she was a licensed cosmetologist and had been working in the film and production industry here in Nashville for a while. And she and I had a lot of conversations, and I was like, I really feel like I want to do this. Do I have to be licensed to just do makeup and style hair? And she was like, actually, I had inquired with the state board of Tennessee about that very thing, because I had, she was in the process of bringing on an assistant and blah, blah, blah. And at the time, she had communication from the state board that said, no, if you're working for a television or photo production shoot, that's a loophole that we have, that you don't have to be licensed to provide those services. So I was not licensed when I started. That was actually, she had actually sent me the screenshot of the email as proof. And I said, okay, I feel good about this decision. I don't feel like I'm doing anything illegal. And I was just renting a studio for my bridal trials, but most of what I was doing was on location at photo studios, video studios, people's homes, things like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even in a field where traditionally you have to be licensed. There are a lot of states that do have that film and TV loophole because there is a shortage of production workers. So, you know, they understand that that's kind of a whole different thing. And I know that like Georgia and New York, I think, has that loophole. Anywhere where there's like a big production hub, so Atlanta, of course, New York, and LA, that is a loophole in those areas. And then there's some states, of course, that don't require licensure for makeup artistry. I know Maryland and Texas are two of them as well. But I did go on to get my license, just to kind of segue there because I want to make sure everybody knows. I did. So in the state board, you know, over the years, obviously there were some bad actors that came onto the scene. And as the profession of makeup artistry grew as a whole, you know, there's a lot of people that entered the industry without sanitation knowledge and, you know, other things that would help them keep their clients safe. And those are things, you know, that you learn in school. But thankfully, I had been surrounded by really great other professionals in the industry that taught me that stuff really early on. So I had the benefit of that knowledge, you know, because of their education. So, but, you know, over the years, State Board kind of started to crack down, and I completely understand why they did that. So in early 2018, I decided to go to school, and I found a program at Tennessee College of Applied Technology. And at the time, the governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, had just passed the Tennessee Reconnect program. And that was geared towards financing higher education for independent students that were Tennessee residents. And particularly if you were switching fields. So thankfully I qualified for all of those things. So my cosmetology education was free. Thanks to
very nice.
Yes. So it was just kind of like a perfect storm, because that was one really big drawback that I had about going back to school to get my license, because when you go to cosmetology school, they teach you, you know, health and sanitation, and then they teach you the techniques that you have to prove that you know how to do for the test. They don't actually teach you a lot of like practical application. So I kind of had all of that already under my belt, and I felt like, you know, why do I need to pay $10,000 if I'm already doing the things to keep my clients safe and, you know, all of this. So that all just kind of came together, and I decided to enter a night class program. And it was also wonderful because it wouldn't infringe on my Friday, Saturday, Sunday jobs that I had. And, you know, being in the wedding industry, those are the big days for wedding jobs. So it was just a great opportunity for me to go back and get my license. And the day before I started, so I started on May 1st, 2018, I found out that I was pregnant with twins.
I
knew that I was pregnant, and I was like, oh, you know, it's fine. Like, I'll just go ahead and go, and I'll go as long as I can. And literally, like, we found out we had our first ultrasound on April 30th. Found out that we were having 2 babies, not just one. And I was like, well, I'm already signed up and I'm on the form, so I'm just going to go, and they're going to find out, and, you know, I guess it's going to be okay. And it totally was. They worked too. Awesome. I really only had to miss like 3 weeks of school. So, cause it happened to fall over like the Christmas break. So so now I'm licensed, and it's been a really interesting road the last 5 years for sure.
It sounds like, I'm sorry. It sounds like all the stars aligned. You had your husband's support. You had great mentors.
Yes.
You were very confident in your gut. So is that how you felt starting this business, or were you kind of like us where we were confident we were making the right choice, but still scared to death? Like, did you have any of that fear?
Absolutely. I mean, even before I quit my job, one of the things that was really important to me was to build my book and build my experience. So I used to tell people all the time, there were many weeks where I would work 7 days a week, because at the time, which I failed to mention this at the top of the episode, but I was also singing I would consider it full-time with a wedding band
Mhm.
that traveled regionally. So we not only did weddings in Nashville, but we would go to Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Louisville. I mean, we would travel all over and do 1 to 2 weddings a weekend. So I did have that income to fall back on. That at its height was only about $10,000 a year, but it was enough to know that, you know, I have this consistent income coming in. And so when I quit, leading up to when I quit my job, so I was doing that just about every Saturday, just about every weekend. And then on Sundays, I had reached out to people and asked, who do you know that will let me do your makeup and take your picture for my website? And so I was doing a lot of free work like that, just to, again, get experience and build my book and just have a portfolio to show people, because when I started, I really didn't, and these people, bless their hearts, let me come, and I was asking friends at work, like, hey, can I do your hair and makeup for date night or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to. So you had a little financial cushion, as well as you were networking or building your book, as you call it, before you actually quit your job, which is really good advice, I would say, for anybody wanting to quit their job and start their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say it was like 4 months of working 7 days a week, and that's at the time, that was a small sacrifice that I was willing to make for the bigger picture and the end goal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really, something that people should know is that, like, you always have been like, I'm going to start doing this and then I'll figure out the rest. Like, I'm going to have my book, I'm going to do this free work, and then I'll, figure out the license, like, I know as long as I'm not illegal, like, I'm cool.
Right.
So
my knowledge. Yeah. A lot of people say, they throw around that term imposter syndrome or fake it till you make it. And I mean, there's definitely a lot of truth to that. Well, fake it till you make it is different than imposter syndrome. But I mean, I think that any, especially us self-employed individuals, we all get a tinge of imposter syndrome every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've always been a fake it till you make it kind of person. I think if people are liking what you're doing, then that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the feeling that I got when I first started. And, when I went and styled for that pageant, the pageant girls were really happy with my work. So I was like, well, I guess I'm something right. They really be liking it. And some of our girls placed well, so, so yeah, I mean, you just gotta do it sometimes, and just have faith that you're going to figure it out.
Yeah. So let's fast forward 5 years. Now you have 4 businesses, you have 2 kids, like, how are you managing your time, and how do you manage to stay organized?
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. The pandemic came at a great time for me because I was very overwhelmed in early March. I will fully admit that.
When you're coming up on wedding season.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I consider January, February is heavy booking season. So there's a lot of correspondence and communication with potential brides. And then we get into mid-March through mid-June is heavy wedding season. We take a break in the summer, and then the fall is heavy wedding season again. So with my kids, I have twins, boy and a girl, and everyone that has twins or has had children is like, oh, just get through the first year, it'll be smooth sailing after that. Well, I guess our kids are different because they started sleeping through the night at 2 months old. I mean, the only issues that they ever had, they've never been sick. The only issues that they've ever had are they both have a little eczema, and Olivia is allergic to eggs. So it's like, but I mean, we've never had to take them to the doctor for a virus, like nothing. Yeah. So their first year was extremely easy, I think, compared to a lot of other people's experiences. But now that they're toddlers, when they were very little, I could work while I was at home and watching them. But now that they're toddlers, it's so much more demanding. And at the same time, I don't want to be the mom that they're coming up to me and tugging on my shirt and saying like, read to me, or, you know, let's go outside, you know, and I don't want to be the mom that says, no, like mommy's working, you know, cause it's like, well, why are you at home? You know, I was kind of telling myself that. So I was starting to get to that breaking point of like, okay, something's got to give because I'm about to freak out.
Yeah.
And the pandemic honestly could not have come at a better time for me personally, because it allowed me to kind of, I mean, it gave me a huge gaping hole in my schedule and allowed me to work on a backlog of things that I had been putting off for my businesses. And, you know, we didn't know how long it was going to last. At first it was just a few weeks, and then now it's been 6 weeks. So those first few weeks, I really, thankfully our babysitter is wonderful, and she's from our hometown and we trust her. She lives alone. And so her schooling converted to online class, and she was like, listen, I'm fine to babysit while doing my classes, whatever. So her schedule freed up. So I said, come over, you know, these 4 days. I had her coming over like 4 and 5 days a week. And I came up to the studio and just started like plugging away, getting all this stuff done that I had been needing to do. And I did that for about 3 weeks. And then I was finally like, oh, I've kind of run out of things to do. So, you know, and then I started another venture within that time. But it really gave me more clarity of, okay, you need to have more of a regular schedule where you're coming into the studio, which I also consider my office. It is my office. You know, you're coming into the office and working, even if you don't have clients that day in that block of time, because this is where you can really be productive and have peace and quiet and get things done. And you trust that the kids are taken care of at home. And then when you're home, you can be more present. So those are some things that I've, you know, kind of had to navigate and figure out during this pandemic, but I'm coming up on the other side of it, feeling more confident in my schedule moving forward.
Well, it sounds like schedule and delegation. So our next question is going to be this: what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's starting their business? So I think that's 2 pieces that they should already kind of note, like 2 little gems there.
Yeah. I mean,
you would tell people?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's going to be different for every industry. I think if you are starting a business from scratch, I do not recommend that you quit your day job immediately. I had about $10,000 saved when I quit my corporate job. So I felt like I could make that last for a while. I didn't feel that immense crushing pressure of I've got to find clients immediately. And I had some income to advertise with, or, you know, I had some funds to advertise with. So I would just definitely say, you know, make sure that you have a nest egg saved. Do something with your time. You know, you want to work at least 40 hours a week on your business, especially when you're first starting out. You know, so much that you need to learn. You've got to set up your systems. That's another thing too. Set up really good systems in the beginning, because then you've got greater automation and you're going to save a lot of time in the long run if you set things up correctly in the beginning. And, you know, so when you first start, you know, set your systems up well, make sure you have a good financial cushion, you know, and just make sure that I observed a lot. You know, I started following a lot of Instagram accounts of artists whose work I admired. I started, you know, really studying their photos and of their makeup work, and really trying to pick apart what were they doing. If there was a certain technique that I couldn't figure out, I would look up a YouTube video for it. So I was really try to be a sponge and then directly apply that to my next client, you know, with everything that I learned.
Yeah. Well, in our Reset and Simplify Your Life series, we've talked a lot about all these, being mindful of your daily goals and getting in the habit of doing the steps take each day to get towards those goals. But we know how important it is to be able to relax after a really busy time in your
Yeah.
schedule. So how do you go and relax or take some time off?
When things are open,
Yeah.
I really like to go to the spa,
Mhm.
even though I can provide those services to myself, which I do sometimes. I do like to go get my pedicures. I like to get massage, an occasional facial. I love to travel and go on vacation.
Mhm.
It's a little harder now that the children are young because we kind of have to strike that balance between, do we take them
Right.
and have it be a trip, or do we not take them and feel kind of guilty and have it be a vacation?
Mm-hmm.
So we're still kind of, figuring that out. But my husband and I did get to go to California in January, and that was wonderful. He and I actually just talked about the other day how crazy it was that we were able to experience that trip with no restrictions.
Mhm.
And then all of this happened, because that was like the end of January. But it was kind of a great send off too.
Yeah. We went in February, and I was telling her the same thing. Like, I think like one cruise ship was like under quarantine, and we were like, oh, well, that won't be a big deal. And then like 3 weeks later, like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh, everything's changed, especially in California.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's crazy.
I was going to say something else. Just again, trying to figure out my schedule in a way that when I'm home, I'm
Yes.
present. I'm not working if I can help it.
Mhm.
I, try to put my phone down. And another thing that I've been doing for a couple of years is taking Sundays off. My
Yeah.
husband, he takes Sundays off, and he has for a long time.
Mhm.
And, I get client requests for Sunday appointments all the time.
Right.
Mhm.
And unless, like, I've made a few exceptions, but for 95% of the requests I get for Sundays, I turn them down because it's just not worth it to me
Mhm.
to miss out on that one day that both my husband and I take off.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just our day that we just reset and spend time with the family. And that's been really, really huge for me as well.
I was going to say, don't you think that time, I know a lot of people starting their business or wanting to hit that big goal just feel so driven, but don't you think it is so important to take that time to reset? Doesn't it help you overall hit your goals?
Absolutely, because it's not about time worked. A lot of people that provide a service know that when you have a client appointment coming up that day, you're subconsciously anxious about it.
Mhm.
So when you have a day, and traditionally here in America, we, Saturday, Sunday are our weekends. And people just relax a little bit more in general on the weekends. If you're able to take at least one weekend day
Mhm.
and not have any client appointments, not have anything that you have to do,
Mhm.
it just does so much for your psyche. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally agree. You were mentioning your schedule, how when it's mom time, it's mom time. When it's work
Mhm.
time, it's work time. And that is so critical because like you were saying earlier in the show, when you didn't want to be the mom who was, I'm busy working, hold on.
Right.
So having that time, I think helps mental and emotional
Yeah.
stress.
Yes, it really, really, really does. And I'm trying to do better with that every day.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. So I think I already know the answer because you are always up to something. You talked about having a new venture during the pandemic, but do you feel like you still set goals for yourself, even though you have, 4 thriving businesses?
Yeah, it's funny. Before all of this happened, I actually had a completely different goal in mind for like third quarter of 2020. And since all of this has happened, I'm actually kind of glad because I was able to step back and think about that venture and whether or not that was going to be the thing that pushed me more towards my bigger, more overarching goals.
Mhm.
And I don't think at this time that it is. So I was actually able to pivot and start a new venture, and I'm just really having a lot of fun with it. And, the first goal that I referenced was something that I was going to have to do completely on my own. Mm-hmm. And probably same time commitment as this new venture that I've delved into. Yeah. But the difference is that there's a huge community attached to this new venture, and a lot of really amazing, strong women that I've gotten connected to, and have just been really inspired by them. So I think that this has definitely been better for me, in the long run. So yeah, I mean, I'm always setting new goals. My husband and I are always talking about, working on personal projects and, just having new things that you're working on. And it's not to be like squirrel, like ADD, but, just constant, because if you're just sitting in the mundane every day, nothing's growing, nothing's changing, then you're going to get bored and you're not going to be motivated. And the world is changing. So I just think that it's good for us to kind of change and evolve with it. And so our goals are going to change and evolve too.
Yeah, I agree. So what's one thing that someone may not realize about owning their own business?
That it is about 25% what your job is. So I'm a makeup artist, and I probably spend 25% of my working time actually doing makeup, probably less than that if I'm being honest, and about 75% everything else, doing your accounting, doing your marketing, doing your taxes, communicating with clients, all of those other administrative tasks. So you better be good at it. Your systems, like what we were talking about, you better have good systems in place, better be prepared to spend a lot more time on those things that will build your business and sustain your business than you are actually doing the thing that brings you income.
Right. What you're seen for is not really all the work behind the scenes. That's what I try to tell people. I'm like, just because what you see, that doesn't mean that's all I do all day long.
Yeah. And I think about that a lot in regards to pricing, because say, you have a makeup artist that charges $100 for a makeup application. And, what you see is probably the amount of makeup that they put on your face, how much time they spend with you. What you don't see is how much it costs to put that entire kit together, the time that they spent communicating with you prior to your appointment, the time and care that they took to wash their brushes, to prepare for your appointment, driving to your location, driving home from your location, making sure that they were dressed and looking perfect, all of these other things that they had to spend their time doing to prepare for your appointment so that it seemed like a professional and seamless experience.
Right.
Those are things that you're paying for as well. It's not just, because we always laugh as makeup artists in the community that someone will say, oh, well, I just, I like really natural makeup. So is it still the same price? Yes, it's the same price. I don't charge by the pound. It's my experience. It's my expertise to make sure that you look natural and don't look like a clown and so that is always something that I think about when I'm washing brushes or packing my kid or whatever. I'm like, this is why I charge what I charge, because all of these things are time that I'm spending preparing for this appointment.
Right. And it's a skill they don't have, or they wouldn't be.
Yeah. What are you doing it? I could put makeup on you, but it wouldn't look like Madison.
Right.
She has, and it's pretty good, but it's not Madison level.
Yeah, no, y'all look great.
So we kind of want to wrap up the episode with how people can get in touch with you. Because I know if they're local in Nashville, or, you go everywhere, but let them know how to connect with you, whether they want to do makeup or just get in touch. How should somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way is to go to my website, which is www.mhdbeauty.com. And that's I have 3 websites, but that's the main website that serves as the hub for everything that I do. You can connect to my bridal website from there. You can connect to my cosmetics website from there. You can also book an appointment directly online through that website, and also see my pricing pricing with all of those appointments that are available as well. So that's the best way. And my contact information is also on that website. If you'd like to connect with me on Instagram, unfortunately, I have not been able to snag the MHD Beauty handle. Someone that does not use Instagram is sitting on that handle that has never posted anything. Yeah, I know, right? So my Instagram handle is at Madison H. Dennis. And you can also find my other Instagram accounts through that as well.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yes, very cool. And I've been to your site multiple times. There's so much helpful information on there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've cheated and looked at some videos once or twice. I'm like, how do I do this?
Nice. Yeah, well, that's what they're there for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you again so much for taking the time to be a part of our series, the Reset and Simplify Your Life. I think people will get so much from it just because, you've accomplished so much, but you just make it so easy. Like, we can just, have
they
a
can
conversation.
relate.
Yeah.
You're just like us, and just like them. Anybody,
Thanks.
You're very relatable.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all having me, and I respect you guys a lot, and look forward to working with you more in the future.
Oh yeah. We need some makeup. We need some new pictures.
Yes.
All of it.
All of it.
I know. I think things are just going to explode after all the restrictions are.
Yeah, they will.